10 things you must know before moving to Summerville, South Carolina. So you're thinking about packing up and heading to Summerville, South Carolina. Now, before you go all HGTV on me, let's get some things real, because this place, it's not just front porches and polite neighbors. I'm gonna tell you some things, and 10 things specifically, that you absolutely need to know before you move here, or risk getting stuck behind a school bus in 100-degree heat with 100% humidity and no idea what you signed up for. So let's dive in. All right, diving into number 1, the roads just weren't built for this many people. So to be honest, Summerville grew faster than really anyone had planned for. And you've got traffic lights at 2-lane intersections, backups onto the highway during school bus drop-off. Don't even get me started on the I-26. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Just know this, if your job requires a downtown commute, pack snacks and maybe a podcast series or 2, because you're in for a commute. I mean, honestly, that's what it feels like sometimes. It feels like you got sold the bag of goods. It can be an absolute nightmare. And the 26, it really is what it is. So just so you know. But hey, if you work remotely, you've already won half the battle. You guys don't have to go anywhere. You can stay right in your neighborhood. So it's a blessing in disguise. Diving into number 2, guys, it's basically a festival town here. And Summerville hosts one of the biggest art festivals in the Southeast. I'm talking about the Flower Town Festival. It takes over the entire town and it's pretty awesome. And if you're not ready for it, well, buckle in, because I think the entire town sees 200,000 people that short few days, and it's just amazing. There's everything from, face painting to different types of food. If you live nearby though, expect to have your road blocked off, your favorite parking spot completely hijacked, and you're gonna have a lot of local strangers asking where the kettle corn booth is. And believe me, they got some damn good kettle corn here. It is delicious. Now, it's fun, it's beautiful, and it can be chaotic, even if you're just trying to get into Publix. I mean, it seems like Publix is running a festival every once in a while, so there's that. All right, moving on, number 3. So that cute house might be a historic headache. So a lot of people don't realize this, but homes just age a lot faster here, and I blame a lot of it to the humidity, the weather, the sun, because the sun's just brutal on roofs. So a lot of people say to me, "Oh, Ryan, this home just looks so cute online. We gotta see it. We love a good home with charm." And I'm like, do you? With termites and maybe some crazy things happening behind those walls. Do you love that historic charm? Okay. Let's see, buckle in. So what I will say is, yeah, Summerville has a lot of historic charm, and I mean that literally. Many homes here date back 100+ years, which is cool if you think about it, until you try to renovate, right? And you get into that knob and tube. You know what I'm talking about. So between Preservation Society restrictions and old plumbing, the character might come with some asbestos, termites, or 3-prong outlets that don't work. And that's just the way houses are here. I mean, I've personally run into it myself. I once had a house that my buyer was very interested in because it was absolutely beautiful, looked great in photos, until you got into the attic. And guess what was in the attic? The entire roof and all the beams in the attic were charred black. The home, at some point in the 50s, maybe 60s, nobody's really sure, had a fire. And so they had to do an addition to the home, but to save some money, they had the wood checked and confirmed, yeah, this is still structurally, yeah, it's a little charred, structurally, still good wood. And so they never had that wood replaced. So part of our negotiations was, hey, yeah, that charred wood, that might have been great for y'all, but we want to get that taken care of. In funnier story of that, the sellers who bought the home at the time, their agent says, yeah, you don't need a home inspection. Don't even worry about it. They were blown away. They had never seen that before, or they claimed they had never seen that. But either way, crazy nonetheless that something like that can kind of get slipped through the cracks for so many years. And so while that home was affordable for the area and all that stuff, things like that can be red flags that not everyone can see. So you just have to remember, and I tell everyone this, yes, the homes are beautiful. Yes, they're charming. but there might be a reason why it's priced a certain way, especially if it doesn't have a lot of updates. So gotta prepare for that. Now let's talk about number 4. And not every realtor wants to talk about this, but I'm going to. And the reason I'm going to is because I want you to be well aware of what it's like to buy here in Summerville. Not only from like lifestyle, neighborhood, but affordability. And nobody really talks about this anymore because the prices just keep ticking up. And it's like, we're just not gonna pay attention to the 4,000 pound elephant in the room. Look at that palm tree in the front yard. Isn't that beautiful? Lovely, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the prices, okay? Summerville used to be one of the best kept secrets in South Carolina. Those days, gone, okay? It's done, it's over with, everybody knows about it, everybody loves it, and there's about 4,000 other realtors trying to do what I do since 2019. So, you know.
I will smash your face into a car windshield and then take your mother, Dorothy Mantooth, out for a nice seafood dinner and never call her again.
And while Summerville may technically still seem affordable compared to Charleston, price tags are starting to creep up fast, and it's not coming with a whole lot of yard space. And everyone wants a big yard. Good schools, that low country feel without the downtown price tag. But the more people who move here, the smaller that affordability window becomes. If you're on the fence, now is better than later. And that's something I try to get people to understand, because in this market, the prices are gonna keep clicking up. The demand for Summerville hasn't gone down. The demand is still there. It's the inventory, right? So it's a buyer's market. So the buyers are able to kind of do more in this market. So if you're looking to buy, now's a great time, because in a few months or a few years, it may go back to a seller's market, and these prices might not be as good as they are today. All right, moving on to number 5, the job market. It's great here. It is, it really is. But the commutes can suck. Oh my God, they're awful sometimes. So we're seeing just a ton of job growth here, and especially in construction, tech, healthcare, manufacturing. I mean, it just seems like every day there's just a new business that's moving or relocating its headquarters to Summerville, Ridgeville, Charleston. Just go ahead and draw a line right across the 26, and that area is where you're seeing all of the growth. All of this land is being bought up for commercial properties. So it's fantastic. Now, the downside is some of the other jobs, the more established jobs, many of those jobs are still based closer to Charleston or North Charleston. So if you're someone relocating here and you're going to be working in Charleston or North Charleston and living in Summerville, well, get ready for a commute. So if you're not working remote, your home in paradise just might come with a little bit of a longer drive. There's a smidge. And I've had clients move here for a job and only to get blindsided by the commute. Now, this is something I talk about frequently. 30 minutes on a map for a lot of people doesn't seem like a long time until you factor in accidents and the car breakdowns and all that other stuff that will delay traffic. And so what was 30 minutes now is 50 minutes, and double 50 minutes every single day. And you know what I mean? It starts to add up. So just know your route before you fall in love with the home. That's one thing I always tell everybody. Just know your route before you fall in love with the neighborhood, the home, that kind of thing. Because if that's going to be a deal breaker at the end of the day, then you want to make sure you're moving to the right neighborhood. We're burning through these 10 facts of moving to Summerville. Enjoying a little coffee right now. Speaking of coffee, there is some delicious coffee shops all throughout Summerville, but here's what you really want to know. School zones, Ryan. Talk to us about school zones. So, number 6, school zones can make or break your home choice. And that's something I think everyone who has kids can agree on. Now, we've got Dorchester District 2, which is one of the most desirable school districts in the area. I mean, every realtor who lists a home in DD2 will literally put in the description like, this home is located in the desirable Dorchester District 2. And you're like, oh my God, it is? Honey, put this one on the map. This is it. I feel it.
I feel heroic and handsome.
So that's the feeling you get when you read something like that. But school zones here change, and they change block by block and sometimes neighborhood by neighborhood. Get this, there's neighborhoods that have schools in the neighborhood that you can move into that neighborhood, but you're not zoned for that school. Crazy, right? I've literally had buyers lose out on a house because it was zoned for the other school. And they were like, no, we like that home, but we're not going to do that. Nope. So if you have kids, you want to double, triple check your zoning before putting in an offer. I mean, again, this is something I have these conversations with folks because I don't want you to make this mistake. I don't want you to move to the wrong side of town because at the end of the day, that's going to cost you time and, more importantly, money. Even if you don't have kids, good schools keep resale value strong. Look at it as an investment on your home. You should always think of your home as an investment. And that's something that, listen, we live in this time now where everything is all about monthly, our phones are on a monthly plan. Our internet's on a monthly plan. Our music streaming is on a monthly plan. Everything's, we're renting it all. For your home is the one thing you can actually own and build equity, build growth in. So don't take that lightly. Pick a right area, good school zone for you. Check them out. Do your due diligence, and that will be a good investment on your home and your equity long term. All right, let's move into number 7, flood zones, and more flood zones. But there's areas that have no water views and there's still a flood zone. What's up with that, Ryan? Well, just because you don't live next to the river doesn't mean you're flood free. Summerville actually has a lot of low-lying areas, wetlands, and retention ponds that like to overflow when it rains sideways for about a half an hour. Now, that all being said, we've gotten some pretty wild weather here in the past couple of years. In fact, about a year and a half ago now, we had a storm that came through and literally flooded the streets. The water never made it up to anyone's houses, but that's because the water removal systems that they have in place did what they were supposed to do. All that flood water pulled it right out. So again, I don't live in a flood zone, but I carry flood insurance because in a situation where, heck, they have 8-10 hours of rain, yeah, we might experience some flooding, and I want to be sure that I'm insured. And get this, here's the best part. If you're zoned for X, right, you're not required to carry flood insurance. But if you want to, it's relatively less expensive than if you're required to carry flood insurance. And that's something that not a lot of people know. Now, you might need flood insurance if you're in an AE zone or a different grade zone, but that's something we can look up. Even if the maps say moderate risk, you're still gonna need flood insurance. And let me tell you, when you need it, the insurance companies know this, and it's not cheap. So we got to check the elevation and the zoning relatively before you put it into an offer. Now, pro tip, I always investigate and ask about, hey, is this policy that the current owners, is this transferable? Can I get into this policy? Can they transfer it to me and I'll just take over? Because generally the policy is much less. In some wild scenarios, I've had the policy only be $600 versus the $1,600 that the insurance company wanted to charge her for the exact same policy. All right, moving on to number 8. So the nightlife here, well, it isn't exactly bumping, okay? And let me be clear. Summerville is made kind of more for families, not bar crawlers, okay? And again, they do have their events. They do have let me tell you, they have a lot of events, right? You can dive in and have a few drinks, have a good time. But you've got very few breweries. More of that stuff you're going to find closer to Charleston. You do have some cozy wine spots, and some of the bars do have DJs come in and play for a few hours on Friday and Saturday nights. But if you're looking for rooftop DJs or late night tacos, you want to drive to Charleston for that stuff. That's where you're gonna find that good stuff. There's not a big late night food eats scene here. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but just don't move here expecting a club scene. It's really not the type of individual who's moving to Summerville. And hey, if bedtime is 9:30, you'll probably fit right in. All right, moving on to number 9. The beach is close-ish. Yeah. So Folly Beach, Isle of Palms, and Kiowa, they're all within reach, but 30 minutes to the beach, No. More like 55, 65, depending on which beach you're going to and what time of the day. So when it's Saturday, the sun's out, half the city is heading to the same places that you are. So you have to remember that's a lot of people. And a lot of these islands and these beaches are one way in, one way out. So pro tip, leave early, pack snacks, and don't forget cash for parking. But pro tip within a pro tip, if you become a resident here long term, I would highly recommend getting a Charleston County Parks Gold Pass. Now, you might say, well, Ryan, what is this? This is actually allows you into the county park sections of the different beaches, meaning you don't have to pay for parking, meaning you get showers, changing stations. Some of them have play areas for the kids. So it is fantastic. And it's only $90 for the year. Pays for itself after the third visit. The good news, you're going to become an expert once you start going to all these places and you start picking out the trips. You're going to get into your flow. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm so worried about just coming there and not being able to figure it out. You're going to get it. It's really easy. And the websites and things like that for Charleston County Parks, all that good stuff is very easy to navigate. And it doesn't take you a long time to figure it out. All right, let's move on to our final tip here. Tip number 10, trees. Yes, trees. Trees are protected here. Did you know that? Like legally. Summerville passed one of the first tree protection laws in the country back in the 1800s, which just means you can't chop down a longleaf pine because it's in your way. You wanna move an oak tree? Nope. You want to add a pool or a shed? Well, you might need a tree permit first. No joke. And so a lot of people complain about HOAs, but like that right there, you might have to have someone come out and actually make sure you can move that tree or cut that tree down. Now, great news for you nature lovers. You guys can all celebrate. But the real surprise for folks who want to open up the yard, you just might not be able to. And a lot of people will say, oh, I love this yard. I just want to clear a couple of these trees out. Well, you legally might not be able to. And that might be why these people have never cleared those trees out. So again, it's something to be aware of that when you're looking at a home here, there might be areas where if you're looking at the one situation I did have, I'll tell you about it, but what I'm going to say is you might want to consider, especially if a tree is hanging over the property and you're concerned about it falling on the property. Well, in that same instance, I had a scenario recently where the oak tree was actually the one like branch of it was hanging over the roof of the house. My buyer was like, so if that breaks and falls, whose fault is that? Because the tree was kind of on the neighbor's property, but it also kind of came over his property quite a bit. So it was a real head scratcher. And I got to tell you, from a legal standpoint, that's maybe where we got to almost ask some attorneys. So, if you're looking at property here, especially older property, more mature neighborhoods, this might be something you just want to consider and to keep in the back of your mind. All right, guys, I'm going to throw in one quick bonus tip. So tip number 11, commercial property is expensive. So yeah, if you're a business owner and you're like, Ryan, I'm hearing all these great things about Summerville. I have this business. I would love to come down there and open up a business. What could I get some commercial real estate for? Well, if you wanted to, open a business in a high traffic area like Nexton, Cane Bay, Carnes Crossroads, plan to look at about anywhere from $38 to $45 a square foot. And that's before you do your build out. And that's wild. For a lot of small businesses, it's not working for them. A lot of them are like, hey, we can't make the numbers work. We can't justify the rent. And so that's where I've had conversations with people who are looking to relocate here to specifically open up a business, and they just couldn't make it work. Now, some of them have, because their business is set up, there's different profit margins. So they're like, yeah, that's higher than we wanted to spend, but we'll make it work. So there's that end of it, but it just makes it tough if you're a small business. And I feel for small business, I like promoting small businesses. I love promoting food trucks. I love promoting local places. So, I'm a big proponent of that. And I think right now we're seeing some commercial vacancies in commercial spaces not have as many businesses in there because the prices are so high. So yeah, these neighborhoods might be beautiful, but what does that mean if you're moving into an area that's got all this empty retail space? You know, it just doesn't look as pretty as if you had multitudes of different businesses in there, stores, shops, small businesses. And I think that's kind of what's missing from some of these large master plan communities. And you can let me know what you think in the comments. You can disagree with me, but that's my opinion. I think for the average small business, $38, $45 a square foot per month just is a little too much for them. And obviously, if you do the math, you multiply it by the square footage and then divide it by 12 months, and then you get your monthly rate. I don't want you guys thinking I meant that's what you pay every single month. But so that all being said, just know that if you're a small business looking to relocate here, just make sure you check out the costs in the different commercial locations. So there you have it, 10 things you need to know before moving to Summerville, South Carolina. Some might have surprised you, others might save you thousands, or at least headaches at closing. If this has helped you at all, go ahead and give me a like, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of next, click this video right here to watch what no one tells you about living in Summerville. It's the stuff no real estate brochure or builder website will ever mention.